Next up, he's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and author. Please welcome the New Yorker's Seymour Hersh, ladies and gentlemen. Seymour.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. I am truly a fan of yours. You are a real investigative journalist. I'm grateful the New Yorker prints you so much. You broke the stories on the My Lai massacre, Abu Ghraib in Iraq. You truly do see more. And what do you see now? I know from your latest article we should probably be worrying about a war with Iran.
Well, sure. We should be worrying every day about everything. We've got 1.5 years left, or a little bit more than that. And I think we just have to wait it out. And maybe we can get to 2009 without every Muslim in the world coming after us. Maybe not.
But what I get from your recent article is that Dick Cheney thinks that Iran is going to have a nuclear bomb soon, and he's going to give it to Hezbollah, and Hezbollah is going to use it on us. And I understand that you interviewed the head of Hezbollah, which is a very hard thing to do. How did you get in to see Mel Gibson?
You know...
oh, I kid Hezbollah.
I would do that to Hassan Nasrallah. I guess he wouldn't worry about it too much. Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, is very hard to see right now because, as you know, there's a death threat on his head from the Israelis since his group became the first people in the Middle East to defeat the Israelis. And so he's pretty much on the line right now. And he's very concerned because he thinks that this White House is trying to create civil war, that is war between Sunnis and Shia all over the Middle East. We have it in Iraq right now, and that's a goner, but he thinks they're trying to spread it.
Right. And if we're going to really understand what's going on in the Middle East right now, we do have to understand what's going on with the Sunnis and the Shiites. Now, our audience, very bright people, I think they probably know, but let's pretend that they know only as much as George Bush. So let's review a little primer here, okay? The Sunnis, they're the majority of the Muslim world, right? The Muslim world has two divisions, the Sunnis and the Shiites.
And the Sunnis are 90%.
Sunnis are 90%, and they include big countries like Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Jordan, and, of course, Al-Qaeda, our real enemies.
Absolutely.
Now, the Shiites, they're, of course, all of Iran. That's a Shiite country. That's the minority.
Well, there's a lot of oil, Bill. A lot of
oil. We'll get to the oil later. And Iraq. Most of Iraq is Shiite, but they had always been ruled by the Sunnis, like Saddam Hussein was a Sunni. Now, we upended that country. We got rid of the Sunnis. The Shiites are now in control. So we're kind of worried now that the Shiites are ascendant. So I understand from your article that we have been funding some radical Sunni groups, which would be Al-Qaeda. So it seems to me in 5 years we've gone from threatening to wipe out Al-Qaeda to watching them become resurgent to now joining them. Are we actually the next country that's in the axis of evil?
You know, it's the only thing I would change slightly is we're throwing a lot of money. It's not appropriated money. It's not money that came from Congress. Congress isn't cut in on this. This White House simply ignores Congress, ignores the laws when it comes to national security, covert operations. And working with the Saudis, we have pumped an awful lot of money into Lebanon. And some of that money, and some of the money we're pumping in, could have come from the money that was been wasted in Iraq. You know, there's talk of billions of dollars missing. It's hard to trace black, dirty money, undercover money. But some of that money that we've thrown in and some of the money, the Saudis have thrown in, has ended up in the hands of three jihadists, hardline groups, the kind of guys that 2 or 3 years ago, if we'd learned about, we would have them in Gitmo, in Guantanamo. Instead, we're letting them stay, and this is in Lebanon, because eventually, in the Bush world, there's going to be, we think, a war between the Sunnis in Lebanon and Hezbollah in Lebanon. We don't want Hezbollah to get any place in Lebanon.
But if there is a war between the Sunnis and the Shiites, could that not sort of be good for us in a selfish way? I wouldn't never say that George Bush planned this, because before the war, he didn't even know that there were Sunnis and Shiites. But in a Clouseau kind of way, could he have kind of bungled into a solution that would be good for America, that they hate each other? Because don't they hate each other more than they even hate us?
Well, if you're a Sunni, if you're a jihadist Sunni, a radical Sunni out of Saudi Arabia, a Salafi or a Wahhabi, you think that anybody that doesn't practice your faith the way you do is an infidel, and you can wipe them out. And don't forget, you're right, 15 of the 19 guys that flew into the Twin Towers in New York were Saudis. So by supporting those groups, we are supporting people who may be useful in a war against Hezbollah. The jihadists are very tough. Hezbollah is very tough. But ultimately, they will turn on us, too. That's the real issue. If you give money to bad guys, the bad guys will, yes, they'll run around killing Shia and maybe in the short run doing something we want to do. In the long run, of course, we'll just be making more enemies.
So our friend Frank Rich over at the New York Times wrote a scary column this week, and he said the system is blinking red, just like it was right before 9/11. And he talked about the fact that Al-Qaeda is reconstituted in Pakistan. He always says, Bush always says Al-Qaeda's on the run, but actually no, they've settled down. They've got a lovely spot in Waziristan. And he quotes this Michael Shearer, who was the head of the bin Laden group at the CIA, the guy who was trying to get bin Laden for all those years. And Michael Shearer says, Al-Qaeda is in Afghanistan and Pakistan. If you want to address the real threat to America, that's where it is. Why do you think we keep fighting them where they aren't?
I think this is without question the most dangerous administration we've ever had in the history of the country, just in terms of what you're saying. They don't understand the Middle East. Right now they have a disaster in their hands in Iraq, and they're trying to fail forward, as somebody in the military told me, failing forward by just pushing into Iran. Maybe we'll bomb Iran, maybe we won't. But what they're doing is we're running clandestine covert operations with the help of the Saudis. In effect, we're outsourcing clandestine operations to the Saudi government, which is pretty amazing for an American government. We're outsourcing the most sensitive operations there are. We're not telling the Congress. We're disobeying the law. We're using money that isn't appropriated. The system is completely broken, and and these guys are really marching to their own tune. They do believe, as you said at your opening, Cheney does believe that it doesn't matter what the facts are, that Iran's going to get a bomb. They don't have one now. There's no intelligence that says they may get one in 5 or 10 years, but he thinks they're going to get the bomb. And he thinks their brown shirts, to use the old World War II, you know, the Nazi analogy, is Hezbollah. He thinks that Hezbollah has cells hidden, tucked away here in America. He believes that. I think the president does, but I know he does. I know that more or less firsthand. And I've been doing this for 5 years, since 9/11, no other story, and I do have some access. He believes that Hezbollah can, if Iran gets a bomb, they'll give it to Hezbollah. Hezbollah can get it to New York, Washington, L.A., or what you will, and poof. So in other words, the president and the vice president, they're not defending the Middle East. They're not defending Western Europe. In their own world, they believe they're defending us. And therefore, they're going to take the actions they think they have to do. And maybe they won't be appreciated now, but in the next 20, 30 years, George Bush believes he's going to be hailed as a visionary president. This is what I really think he believes.
Well, I hope the next time I see you, we're both alive. Seymour Hersh, ladies and gentlemen. All right.